Well, hi Heather, it's so nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit more about your business and how I can help.
Okay, so I started about 3 months ago and I'm making some hats, fascinators, headpieces for little girls. It started off as something I wanted to do for school to help out with a fundraiser they were doing. Okay. And they approached me because I love making things and they thought I'd be perfect for that. So I made a whole lot of things for school and I enjoyed it so much I didn't want to give up after I did that. So I started making things for myself and people became very interested in them. People were buying them for the races and for weddings, and so I decided to make a little business. But the only problem I have is that I'm now on Twitter, on Facebook, I have a little online store, but I don't know how to go from there.
I guess the first thing we need to look at is what are the types of activities that you have been doing, how long have you been doing them, and where can we raise that so that we can make you more visible to the right audiences.
I opened up a Facebook page and I've been inviting friends to like the Facebook page. Okay. And that's been working quite well. Okay. Twitter, I actually have no idea what Twitter is, but I'm on Twitter.
Okay. It's a start.
The Etsy store that I've opened, Etsy's an online marketplace for handmade things only. So I thought that was a good place for me, and it's international shipping and it's very easy to use. So I started with that. That has not been as successful as I thought it would be. Right. So I need to know how to go from there.
Get the word out there. Yeah. All right. So I think one of the first things that we need to do is actually look at your world. And what we would do at the Business Networking Academy is what we call a network matrix. So really what that is mapping out all the groups that you have as part of your existing world, but also putting on there any gaps. So what we'll work out is where you need to be and the relationships that you need to bring closer to you, okay? So roughly if you were to think about who's in your network, personal and professional, because we'll do it holistically, what would you say?
Family and friends.
Absolutely. So glad you started there. Lots of people dismiss them.
Well, that's all I had to begin with because I've been at home for so long now. So
perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. And I'll come back to this a little bit more, but how do you feel about promoting what you do to those people?
With those people, with my family and friends, fantastic. Okay. Because they're very supportive and very honest, and so that's fine.
That's really important. Okay, great. So what other groups do you think might be part of that network of yours?
School's a very big part of our life.
Brilliant. Okay. And so school we would put in a broad category of community. Yep. And community is one of those areas that I think is, again, really untapped by a lot of people. But in the business that you're in and in a lot of mumpreneur businesses and smaller businesses, it is really key. So what else is part of the community that you would think? So we've got school. What else?
School and family. And that's where I get stuck because I haven't been in the workforce for so long.
Right, okay. So just on community as well, I would also talk about things like your local area.
Yeah, with the local cafes being incredibly supportive.
Excellent. So really, local businesses, any sporting things, anything charity, anything through the schools as you've mentioned, all sits under that. Now, if you haven't been in the workforce, what we're missing are another key parts, but interestingly, we can utilise networks and groups to help fill that. Yep. So another group that I think we really need to look at and where I really want to position you is that professional world. Yep. Now, professional is quite broad. It could be anything you've studied. So if you've upskilled in any which area, then people that you've met through that. So we also there look at ex-colleagues. So I know it's been a while since you've been out of the workforce, but any people that you might have stayed in touch with, rather than being in the friends family category, often they're in professional because that's the capacity that we know them. Now, in your case, I really want to look at what other opportunities we can now build to position the business. So a lot of trade shows, conferences, all of the kind of networking opportunities will probably sit under that one, okay? So another group for you, I'm guessing, would be suppliers. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so you don't make beautiful things like this without quite a few bits and pieces that you need to bring together. Now, what we can do is look at those suppliers and the relationships that you have. Obviously, look at relationships that you might need as the business grows. Other things with supplier are printers and accountants and bookkeepers, anyone that's helping you with the running of the business. Because you're a small business, they don't work for you, you're hiring them out, so they fall into that category.
Right.
Okay, and last but absolutely not least, you've got to have a category for clients.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the moment you've said the clients are coming from friends and family.
Yep.
What we want to look at though to grow the business is where can we be drawing these people from. So I guess it's a really good time to be talking to you about what kind of activities are you currently doing to reach some of these networks, and let's then talk about what you can be doing going forward to grow the business. Okay. So what are you currently doing?
Currently I'm doing Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
And they're the only ways I'm getting outside of my local community.
Okay.
I try to market, which was probably not what I should be doing.
A face-to-face market, like a Okay, great.
And it was good, but I don't think that I had the right product there. I think I have to look at the products that I'm taking to a market.
Right.
But Facebook and Twitter for me, I think is the way to go. But I just haven't quite taken it far enough, I don't think.
Okay. And look, social media is really important, but I really like to integrate the face-to-face as well.
Yep.
Okay. So, well, I've got a directory of all the different networking associations that there are out there. And one of the things that I think you should start looking at is some of the professional women's groups.
Yep.
And I think you should time it with key events that are happening. So a good example, we've just had Melbourne Cup, right? So Melbourne Cup is a great opportunity for people to purchase a new item, and that's when your kind of marketing efforts really need to be amplified. So that professional network, the audience is full of people that could, purchase your beautiful pieces. Not only that, they become a referral network for you. So they all know someone that's got a daughter, because I know you're branching out into that, or that's getting married, or that has a special occasion coming up. So what I'd like to do is think about how we can get you more positioned with those.
Yep.
And take you along to a couple of things as well to help you with some techniques.
Yeah.
I think another key area for you is obviously the wedding market.
Yeah.
Some of those trade shows can be quite daunting.
Yeah.
So the thing that we need to talk about now is the cost, because you're 3 months in.
Yeah.
And we really need to be realistic as to what you can do. So I'm all about the visibility and the actual presence that you have. I don't think you're at the point to go buying trade show booths and doing that kind of thing. But I think you can do a lot more with you getting out there and spreading the word.
Yeah.
Do people know how to talk about your products and tell other people about them when you're not there?
Okay, I think that has been probably part of my problem, is that I've changed the product. So I started off making 1920s fascinators.
Okay.
Then I went into the races and I started making racers hats.
Right.
Now I'm making things for little girls.
Right.
It keeps changing and people don't quite know how to put their finger on what it is that I'm doing.
Okay. Now, most businesses face this problem for a different set of reasons. So what we need to work on is what you say to people and how you help them to help you. See, the whole notion of 6 degrees of separation only works if the people in our networks know how to promote us.
Right.
And one of people's biggest, I guess, gaps or problems with networking is that they haven't taken the time to do that. Now, you're really lucky because your friends' family network is actually quite strong and knows. That's actually the opposite for most business people, because they shy away, from telling them anything, and same with community. So what we need to work on is almost the opposite of a lot of corporates and other businesses that are pretty good at the client face but not at the personal, whereas you're the complete other way around, which is normal for a mumpreneur business that's growing at the rate that you are.
Yeah.
So we want to come up with some language, some words that you're comfortable with to help others know what to say, because you can't assume that they know how to do this.
Yeah.
And the better you get at doing that, the more your influence grows and the more, I guess, word of mouth referral grows as well, which is a huge part of networks. So I call them positioning statements, and I think it's really important that we come up with several versions for the different people in your networks. Another term for it that's a bit more widely known is elevator speech, which I have to warn you against. So if you do sometimes read tips and advice on networking, they tell you to come up with this scripted pitch. I personally don't think that works. In the environments that I network in, I find when I listen to those, they're very fake, very scripted. It's almost very forced. Whereas really with networking, if you think about it, it's the opportunity to start a relationship. And there's nothing worse than being spoken at. So what we'll do is we'll come up with lots of different versions for you for the different groups within your network to help you educate them on what you do, but also that means that they can transfer that to their network so that we build those degrees of separation for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask about was networking functions. I have never been to one, and I didn't know they existed. Okay. But it sounds like something that I probably need to do.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so the networking, I guess, world in terms of functions, events, there's all these association and groups, and we'll need to find the right ones for you. My advice though, when you're starting out, is not to join any. Always go as a non-member first so that you can really ascertain if that's something for you. Some of the groups really take a lot of your time, you know, it's an hour or two a week. Again, being a mum of 3, you know, growing your business at the moment, I would just say just hold off on that kind of commitment now. We really need to spread, I think, your activities. Yes, it's good to have consistency and go to similar things or the same things to build relationships, but you really need to think very carefully on the time commitment and make sure that there's that return for you. So, yes, we need to get you out to an event. Now, one of the things for you is you're so comfortable telling friends and family, you know, how do you feel walking into a room where you don't know anyone and explaining what you do?
That's been a very different thing for me, being away from the workforce for 8 years and being a stay-at-home mum. You lose the confidence of being able to talk about your own product or talk about yourself with a
It's
skill.
very personal, this, isn't it? 'Cause
It
it's
is
yours.
very personal, and it's a new skill that I've taught myself as well, which is sometimes difficult to promote. So I think that's definitely the thing that I need to look at, is the way that I talk about my product and talk about it with more confidence.
Okay, so I can certainly help you there. What we'll do is, as I said, find some of those events to take you along to. Now, one of the first things you'll notice when you arrive at something is there's often, you know, groups congregating. So when you are shy or you're new to it, what I would firstly suggest is that you actually get there really early. I know that sounds a bit counterproductive because you almost don't want to go, so you put it off and put it off. Having said that though, if you're there really early, the first people there are the organisers and the guest speakers. You know, so that means that straight away you've got access to the most important people. Secondly, the room fills around you. So you start to feel a little bit more comfortable because it's not like you're walking into all these groups. And I know a lot of people feel like all those people know each other and they're the odd one out, when really everyone says that to me. You know, one of the hardest things people find is walking up to a group. So that said, always look for the bigger groups. You know, 2 people talking, probably avoid it because they might know each other and they might be in a more private conversation. But once you've done your research, so we'll spend a lot more time choosing the right events and then doing the research as to who's going to be there, coming up with, you know, conversations that you might be comfortable with, looking into the topics and things like that. So once you've actually done all that pre-work, you'll find it's a lot easier to make those connections, especially if all these events are aligned to what you're doing. So if the topic is something, you know, coming up that you can, you know, really see yourself talking confidently on, then why not? So that's one of the key things, is choosing the right things and then doing that research.
Okay. And then so once I've been there and I've met people, when is it the right time to give people business cards, and how do you...
I'm so glad you asked that. Oh my goodness, there are so many card collectors out there. The whole card thing is really misunderstood. And look, and it depends on the type of networking events you're going to. Some events really make that the popular thing that you should be doing. Again, I disagree. For me, networking, as I said, is about building relationships. So a card is literally, if we break it down, a piece of paper with your contact details. It's nothing more. The only reason you'd want to give the card is once you've qualified that that's someone that you want to stay connected to. So if you're doing the pre-work right, there should be more of those people in the room. If you're haphazardly going to things because you're not sure where to go, there's going to be less of those. So that's something you need to obviously be aware of. So once we're qualifying in a conversation that there's a reason to follow up, then we exchange cards. So it's usually towards the end of the conversation, because you don't want to obviously dominate someone's time the whole event. You want to then make that opportunity to catch up with them again.
Yeah.
But I warn you, a lot of people starting out with networking then fall into the coffee trap. You know, because everyone they meet, then they want to have coffee with. And it's not conducive of your time, especially yours. So then that's why the qualification process is so important, so that you're actually thinking about, okay, where am I going? Who's going to be there? Who are the right contacts? And then I will follow up with those and fill some of the gaps that we've got in your network that we're building.
Right.
Yeah.
And so once you have decided that this is the person that you can make contact with, so how would you approach them after that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, great question. Our research, funnily enough, with all the people we've trained, it says that most people, 71% of people, don't follow up.
Right.
So I'm really, grateful that you said that, because that's something that you've gone through all this trouble. You've got to make the most of it now, yeah? So I would say it depends on the duration of the event, and it also depends on the day of the week of the event as to the exact timings. I'm not into, exact formulas in terms of that, but I would say anywhere from a day to a couple of days, so that you're still fresh in people's minds, but also because credibility is such a huge thing in relationship building. And the amount of people that say, oh, I'll call you, or I'll send this, or, let's catch up, and then don't follow through, it really affects their reputation going forward. Yeah. So if you said you're going to do something, the sooner you do it, the more impressed that person's going to be with you. So it does say something about your character, which, given that we're building these relationships one-on-one, then we need to actually have that follow-up. Okay. Now, I know you've invested in social media, so that's where this comes in as well. Okay, so social media, your Twitters and your Facebooks and LinkedIn, as you start to get into those professional worlds a little bit more, we can work on developing your profile there. Yeah. They're great ways of staying visible and top of mind. So you can utilise face-to-face networking to create a relationship, and then you can keep that relationship going forward in between face-to-face catch-ups with your social media. Right. So do make sure that you're really adding value with the information. So it's a combination of what's going on for you, but also information that might be useful to that network of yours that you're building, so that when they receive something, they open it and they want to read it. Yeah, so really key that we keep those touch points high, and keep the visibility high, because what we know is recency plus frequency equals strength when it comes to relationships. Yeah. Okay, so to sum up, Heather, really what we've talked about there is the amount of planning that needs to go in to make sure that you're creating the right network from the start. And making sure that the time you spend networking is actually valuable because you're meeting the right people. So really that preparation is going to pay dividends because you've got those right people that you're forming the relationships with. The other thing that I really want you to think about is, how you come across. So networking is really about those techniques and the behaviours, what we can do to make sure that we're creating those connections and getting stronger relationships. So all the etiquette around that, how we start conversations, leave conversations, as we've discussed. Finally, this is all about visibility. So utilise the social networks that you are, but really look to build those. So create communities, create a voice, get other people talking about you. The more touch points you create with all of the people in your network, the more influence this business is going to have over time, the more sales that you're going to get. So best of luck and keep me posted.
Thank you.